Hey, everybody. I am here with Iowa State Senator Zach Wahls, who is serving his second term. He was elected in 2019. And a little bit about Zach. He is running for U.S. Senate in Iowa against GOP frontrunner Ashley Hinson with Joni Ernst, who is retiring. He is not the preferred candidate of the Democratic Party, and we like that because he is not accepting corporate PAC money and has made overturning Citizens United one of his primary goals, along with term limits for congressmen and doubling the federal minimum wage, which has been stagnant for years. His staunch supporter of same-sex marriage and LGBTQ rights, Zach is also proposing a Keep the Promise Act, which, when he's in the Senate, which would roll back the Republican Social Security cuts and tax or raise taxes on the wealthy. Zach, welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you coming in here. I know we listed a bunch of things, and we'll get into more about what you're running on. I would like to touch on your expected opponent here, Ashley Hinson, who is in Congress right now for Iowa. Let's just say I don't know if a lot of things that she has been standing behind will resonate with people. She was a vocal proponent and voter for the Big Beautiful Bill, which is estimated now to cut taxes over the next 10 years by $4.5 trillion for the top 10% earners, the wealthiest in America. She faced a whole lot of backlash in a viral town hall in 2025. She was booed by her constituents there in Iowa for not only her support for the Triple B, but also her support for Musk and Doge, which was a big nothing burger and really didn't provide anything except firing federal workers. She voted not or she failed to sign a discharge petition, which would have forced a vote on the Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would have banned stock trading by members of Congress. She also voted against a bill that would restore collective bargaining rights for 1 million federal workers, including 18,000 individuals in Iowa. The AFL-CIO has given her a lifetime score of 10 out of 100 for voting against workers during her entire legislative career. And in response to the killing of Renee Good a little while back, she said, if you don't get in the way of ICE agents, it won't be a problem for you. So again, I can't really imagine anybody listening to all that and what she has done and not done for Iowa and saying, that's my candidate.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you this. When she first got into the race, this is back in September, folks were asking, who is Ashley Hinson? What's she all about? And at the time, I was describing her as kind of like the Marjorie Taylor Greene of the Midwest. But now, obviously, I can't even use that comparison because Marjorie Taylor Greene looks reasonable and moderate compared to Ashley Hinson these days. And so this is a person who I think pretended to be much more moderate than she actually is when she first ran for the Iowa state legislature. This is back in 2016. Since she actually has gotten to Washington, D.C., you have seen her become just one of the most kind of pro-Trump, MAGA members of the U.S. House of Representatives. She was all in on Trump from the very first day that she launched her campaign in September. Trump endorsed her on just the third day of her race. Donald Trump is actually speaking in Iowa right now in a Des Moines suburb called Clive. Ashley Hinson flew out with him on Air Force One from DC. And so there's a real, stark choice in this election. This is a campaign, and I'm sure we'll get into all the issues here in just a little bit, but we are laser focused on the fact that the economy is not working for the vast majority of Iowans, working class, middle class Iowans, retirees, all being crushed by an economy that's working great for the billionaires, the big corporations that are doing better than ever, but not for the rest of us. And we know that crisis in our economy is the direct result of the crisis of out of control corruption in Washington, D.C. Ashley Hinson is 100% a part of that problem. And I think that this campaign is bringing people together across the political spectrum because this is a message that is really resonating with people. There are a lot of folks in Iowa who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 because they wanted to see lower costs. But unfortunately, his policies have been doing exactly the opposite. They've been exploding costs, whether that's with the tariffs, whether that's in healthcare, whether that's in utility bills that are going through the roof. So there are a ton of people, again, across the political spectrum here in our state who may not agree on every issue, but who share our vision for an economy that actually works for us, not just the big guys. And that's why people are resonating with this campaign.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's always interesting when Trump goes on these little tours, and I guess he's expected to go once a week now and try to build up, nominees for the midterms. but he goes on these tours and he tries to tell people how great the economy is, and how everything is more affordable, even though I guess affordability is a hoax at certain points, depending on if he's had his breakfast or not or gotten any sleep. How do you think him and Hinson are going to stand up there in front of a crowd of Iowans and say, listen, it's not what you feel in your wallets and your pocketbooks. Everything is just peachy keen. Do you think Iowa farmers, Iowa citizens are really going to be able to say, I'm not yeah, I'm totally feeling that. Like that's it. I feel wealthier than ever. I don't know if that's going to work.
No, absolutely not. Look, Iowa, the numbers here speak for themselves. We fall into 48th in personal income. We fall into 49th in our overall state kind of GDP, our overall economy. At the same time, we're number one in rising cancer rates. Things are not working well in our state. The tariffs that Donald Trump proposed, that Ashley Hinson has voted for 3 different times, these Trump Hinson tariffs have been doing devastating damage to our state's agricultural economy, which is really the lifeblood for a lot of our small towns and our rural communities. You're seeing that play out in so many different ways. But it's not just folks who are on the farm. Those of us who are in town too are seeing costs continue to go up. Whether you're at the grocery store, the hardware store, the doctor's office, the pharmacy. I mean, I'll say this: my wife and I, we have a 2-year-old. Our childcare costs more than our mortgage, and we have one kid. I mean, just think about how challenging that is for so many young families. So this idea that affordability a hoax is obviously not the case, and I think that folks here know better than that. That's why you've seen Democrats in Iowa actually outperform our 2024 numbers in a string of special elections last year in 2025. It varied from 11 points better than 2024 to 27 points better than 2024 in the final special election that we had, which was on December 30th, so just a few short weeks ago. People here are really excited and ready for change.
Yeah, the economy is great message really isn't resonating, and it hasn't been resonating for a while. You mentioned the recent kind of blue onslaught, if you will, in Iowa. I believe 4 out of 5 special elections, or 3 out of 5.
Yeah, so we had 6. We
Yeah,
won 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. There were 2 that we lost. One we lost, it was like a squeaker. I mean, it was that close. And this is in a
yeah,
district Donald Trump carried by like 23 points. We lost by
sure.
and then the other one was, I think it's the 5th most Republican state house district in the entire state. And that one, we had an 11-point overperformance. So again, even in one of the most conservative districts in the entire state, you're seeing this 11-point swing in the Democratic direction. We actually went out to knock doors for that race. Had some really good conversations with people, including registered Republicans who were planning to vote Democrat. They were a part of that 11% shift. And as we see that play out in more and more different places here across Iowa, there's a reason why so many people are so excited about our chance to win the seat back in 2026. And I'll just say, too, obviously, if folks want to learn more, there's a ton of information on our website, zachwahls.com, spelled Wahls, Wahls, and that's Zach with an H. So it's really nice and easy to find. We would certainly love to get connected, especially if you're in the state of Iowa. We'd love to have your help.
Yeah, we're absolutely going to prop you up for sure, and make sure people are aware of how they can donate and support. I think some of the things that are really going to resonate with at least our audience are some of the things I mentioned earlier. Term limits for congressmen. Pushing back on corruption, the stock ban, things like that. Like those are the things that actually matter to people. Is they just want representation for people and not corporate. And I don't know if I mentioned, but you're not taking any corporate PAC funding. It's all grassroots as well. Those are the kind of things that resonate with people. When we talk about left versus right, a lot more people are looking up versus down, and they're seeing the wealthy continue to get wealthier, especially with the big beautiful bill, as our prices continue to go up. So you've a number of policies that you have discussed on your run for Senate. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Keep Our Promise Act?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm coming to you live from our campaign headquarters in Coralville, Iowa, which is where I live. Community that's just west of Iowa City. Folks may know Caitlin Clark, University of Iowa Hawkeyes. They're right next door. But here in our building, and in fact, literally right next door to this office on the other side of this wall, is the Coralville Social Security Field Office. It's one of 16 field offices across the state. And so every morning when I get to the office, there's usually several folks who are here next door looking for the Social Security office. And we had the chance to chat with people both here outside our office and as we've been traveling across the state of Iowa. And what we've been hearing from folks is that the cuts that Ashley Hinson voted for to Social Security have made it harder for Iowans to get the benefits that they have earned, that they deserve, and that should be paid on time and in full. We've also heard from folks who are really upset about the fact that the Wall Street executive who's now in charge of the Social Security agency is only working part time, if you can believe it. He's also doing, double duty as the CEO of the Internal Revenue Service. And so one of the things in our proposal is to end, the ability of any Social Security commissioner from working anything other than full time, because this is obviously an agency that deserves the full time attention of its leader. And then finally, we hear from people, both people who are currently retired and folks who are Generation X starting to look at retirement, or millennials who are starting to think about their retirements down the line and wondering, I've paid in a significant amount of money to Social Security. Is it going to be there for me? And the answer is, if the wealthy pay their fair share, absolutely. And so our plan says, by lifting the cap on how Social Security revenue is generated, the wealthy paying their fair share, we are going to be able to keep the promise of Social Security for decades to come, and future generations will be able to count on a safe, secure retirement that they've earned over the course of their careers.
Yeah, I think part of it, you mentioned about Social Security having an issue soon. I think it's either 2031 or 2033. They're expecting Social Security to get cut by as much as 23% for
That's right.
people if they continue on this path. And you talked about the cap, where some of these people, billions now going on trillions, they stop having to pay after like $184,000. I mean, they're making that in an hour, if not less. Walking through the day, and so the attention on making people pay their fair share, especially the uber wealthy, who continue to get rich under Republican administrations, I think is a welcome um, policy goal for sure.
But
Um,
fundamentally, right, it
yeah,
is about what kind of society do we want to live in? Do we want to live
yeah.
in a society where if you work hard, you play by the rules, you've paid into Social Security your entire adult life, can you count on Social Security to keep that promise and make sure that you can enjoy a secure and dignified retirement? I think the answer should be yes. I don't think that this is a controversial opinion. I think this is something that people from across the political spectrum can agree on. And I think it's just simply a question of making sure that we have what we need in terms of a senator who's willing to actually put that proposal forward, as opposed to Ashley Hinson, who, like I said, has voted to cut Social Security. She's on the record supporting a plan that would actually raise the retirement age. And she is someone who, if she has her way, as you just said, in 2033, which would, by the way, be the end of her first term as a U.S. senator, you would start to see those massive cuts kick into benefits that would jeopardize the future for so many retired Americans. And already, we're hearing from people about how benefits are not keeping up with the cost of living. I met a woman named Cheryl, this is just a few weeks ago, talking about how her actual increase in her Social Security benefit for the year is less than the increase in her weekly grocery bill. And that's just one example that we've heard as we travel all over our state.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to shift gears a little bit because being a U.S. senator, obviously, it won't be just focusing on, Iowa won't be focusing on the United States, but also foreign policy.
Hmm.
I would love to get your insight into the recent reverberations, international reverberations going on regarding Greenland. With obviously the number of threats that were made to either take or purchase Greenland, and how that has shocked the US, EU, Europe alliance, is something that has been historic. And now we are witnessing Europe saying maybe the US is not the ally that, we were hoping it would be. And this kind of transactional using tariffs and economics as weapons against our ally while, promoting Russia and rolling out the red carpet for Putin, things like that. Maybe that's not the way we want to go as a U.S. senator, responsible for being a part of foreign policy decisions. Like, how do you view that? And then things like also the war powers resolution with Venezuela, and basically allowing Trump to go willy nilly and kidnap leaders and attack and threaten anybody who wants. What are your viewpoints on that?
Well, first of all, I talked to a lot of voters in 2024. I did not meet a single person whose number one priority was invading Greenland. It is one of the dumbest proposals that I have ever heard. Denmark is a NATO treaty ally of the United States. This is not how allies treat each other. This is not how, frankly, responsible leaders treat other countries. And so, I know that there's been some developments in that front. I haven't had the chance to see the latest framework or what have you that was put out, but at a fundamental level, NATO,
Concept of a plan.
yeah, right, a
Yeah,
concept of a
right. Right.
NATO is a military alliance that has helped avert, a third world war. It is, an organization of countries that defend each other. These are countries that had our back after we were attacked on 9/11. And this is one of, again, the most important military alliances in the history of the world. And the thing that's so frustrating to me is that this administration, I mean, the United States already has access to Greenland. I mean, they're again, they're a treaty ally of ours via our partnership with Denmark, and this is just again, it is the administration spending time focused on this essentially vanity project. I think when they are not focused on lowering costs for Iowans, for Americans, which should be the number one priority for this administration, and is certainly the number one focus in this campaign. When it comes to what happened in Venezuela, we spoke out about that immediately. I grew up during the early 2000s in the shadow of wars of regime change. That is not something that anybody I know has any interest in, and I certainly don't think that the administration acted within what a country like ours should be doing. I know that we're still watching to see what happens next in Venezuela. But the bottom line is this: we have so much work that we need to be doing here in this country. Spending time on these foreign adventures should not be the priority for this administration or for any other.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, and it's one of those things that this administration, the Republican Party, ran on hard in 2024. Was we're going to focus on you. We're going to focus on making everything better and putting more money back into your wallets and making things more affordable. All these things, no more foreign wars. And now it has been the absolute uno reverse of that, where all he's doing, all this Republican administration doing, and his supporters are doing, are just foreign follies and chasing everything they can besides putting the work in to make people's lives better. And, honestly, to make people's lives worse seems to be the dedicated effort in America right now between the tariffs, which I remind our audience we pay for. Every time there's a tariff, we pay for those things. The soybeans, agriculture. You mentioned that earlier. The kind of trade wars that we've been having, which have devastated farmers all across America, and they're trying to recover out of that right now. So it's the distraction. It's you ran on a job, people voted for you to do a job, and you're doing everything but. And I won't get into his need to distract from other things because what else could there possibly be looming over him that he wants to distract from? But the economy is definitely one of those things which he is not focused on. Um, if you had kind of a parting, paragraph or two that you wanted to give to voters in Iowa to consider as they vote for the senator and U.S. Senate, what would it be?
Yeah, here's what I would say. We desperately need a new vision, a new direction for the state of Iowa. This was an incredible state to grow up in. I was blessed with an incredible public education that I got growing up here. I'm a proud graduate for the University of Iowa. This is a state that prides itself on the work that we do to feed this entire country, to feed the world. And so much of what is coming out of this administration has been taking us down a dark and dangerous path that is not good for the state of Iowa and is not good for our country. I'll tell you this: I do think that Iowans value independence in our senators. For decades, we were represented by Tom Harkin, a Democrat, and by Chuck Grassley, a Republican, because Iowans felt that they were willing to take on their own party leadership when that was necessary. That is something that I have a track record of doing. We were chatting about that just a little bit before we started the interview. But I've been willing to buck my own party leadership when I felt it's the right thing to do for my constituents or for our state. I've got some scars to show for it. And I'll tell you this: I'm not running for the U.S. Senate to work for Chuck Schumer or Donald Trump or the billionaires or the big corporations that are doing better than ever. I've always thought the most important job for a legislator is to represent their constituents to the government. That starts by listening, by focusing on what matters the most to them, and putting together ideas to make their lives better. That's what this campaign is all about. It is resonating with people, like I said, across the political spectrum, big cities, small towns, rural communities, farmhouses on dirt roads, you name it. And that is what this campaign is all about.
I love that, and I think the voters in Iowa will as well. Since you mentioned it, I'm going to bring it up. But before we started recording, this is something you should know about Zach. He was elected in 2019. He was the Senate Minority Leader for Iowa 2020 to 2023, and then was asked to step down, was removed from that position because he removed two senior Democrat aides to him because they did not agree. He did not agree with their vision for the future. And again, Zach is somebody who is willing to buck the establishment and push back and represent voters. Again, he is pushing for term limits. He is pushing for taxing the wealthy. He is pushing for more affordable prices for Iowans and Americans. So when you're looking for a candidate, Iowa, I'm speaking to you. You could do a hell of a lot worse, but I don't think you could do any better than Zach Wahls. So please consider that when you go to the voting booth, and consider hiring a representative who's actually going to represent you and not take corporate PAC money and not just be another cog in the machine, if you will. Zach, it has been a true pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you all the success in your Senate campaign.
It's my pleasure. I look forward to talking more again soon.
Awesome.